fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2371. Today we are talking about why do some families pass down stories and others don't. And storytelling is shaped by environment, not just memory. Some family prioritize sharing memories. Do they share the memories? Do they not? Some of them want to pass those stories on and take the time to sit down and tell you about them. Others are just sort of like so caught up in life or what's going on that it's not a priority for them. Me, I want my family to know the stories. I want those stories passed down. So I pass on along the stories that I know about from different generations and things, and I can pass them on. Others focus on survival or privacy. Do they want the stories to survive so that people understand some of the struggles that our ancestors went through? Or do they just want to keep them private? Then they don't feel like they should be shared. There are some stories that for various reasons, will not be shared. People might be private about them. My grandfather, I never heard about what he went through during the war. I didn't find out till years after he passed away some of the things that happened to him, and that was just based on my grandmother's memory of what he had told her. So, some of them are just. It was for my grandfather. Fighting in the war was a traumatic time for him, and so he wouldn't talk about it. He kept those private to himself because of the traumatic impact it had on him. And there's also hardship. People going through trauma and hardship will may not pass on those stories. They may reduce the storytelling. They might tell you just a little bit, but not the whole thing. So you're just getting a little glimpse, but you're not getting the full story. And others will just not talk about it at all. Cultural norms influence openness on telling stories. There are some cultures out there where the only way you can learn about the history of the family is to sit and listen, because they orally tell the stories. They don't write them down. They just tell the stories and get passed from one generation to the next. And in some cultures where you have clans or tribes, you will have a storyteller in there. There will be someone, at least one person, who is the keeper of those stories. And their job is to find a replacement for them to pass those stories along to the next future generations and things. So you get those that are in the different cultures. It could be a tribe for the natives. It could be a clan. It could be whatever it is. They could have their own cultural things. So please respect that some cultures do not want to be recorded on that as well. But their culture and their brain froze. Their ability to tell the stories as part of their culture, and they love doing that sort of stuff. I love sitting with people. Just the other day, that was last week, I was at the bus stop and I was sitting there waiting for my bus. I thought I was at the correct bus stop. It turned out I was at the wrong one, but that's another story for another day. And this woman came along and sat down with me, and she had her walker, and she was moving her walker along the street along with her cup of coffee. And she sits down next to me, and I found out that she was 93 years old, and she catches the bus from a couple of towns up down to this particular one, so she can do some shopping and run some errands and things and stuff like that. Then later on, this other guy comes along and basically butts in, I guess, with the conversation, because he knew the woman, and it turns out she was a pillar of the community at her church. And so she would travel from this other city down to this one, this other town that she lived in, and travel down to go to the activities that the church had on. And she's 93 years old, and she still mows her own lawn. Excuse me. And just hearing some of the stories that she wanted to share, I felt very honored to be able to sit there with her for the 20 minutes we sat there and just chit-chatted backwards and forwards, and just getting little glimpses into her life. She has lived a very long and very healthful and very adventurous life, and she's 93 and she's still going strong. She still mows her own lawns. She still does her own gardening. And I was just absolutely, and then she rides the intercity bus down a few days a week to go to church and some of the activities that are on in the church and stuff. And it was just, she was I wish we could have talked longer. She was a very interesting lady just to sit there, and she just wanted somebody to sit and listen to her stories. And I said, do you have any children? She says, yes. I said, what about your grandchildren and stuff? Do they like to listen to your stories? And she says, well, they're all on their phones and they're too busy running around. Put the phones down, listen to your elders. They have some incredible stories to tell. Some of the struggles that you may be facing today, may have faced something similar during their lifetime. Granted, they didn't have the computers and the phones and all of that sort of stuff around because it wasn't around at that time, but they could have had similar problems that you're having right now. And hearing their stories may provide the solution just in a way you didn't think it could be provided. So just be conscious of that, that some people do want to sit down and tell their stories. They just don't have anybody to listen. Think about that. Silence can become a family habit. They don't have anybody to listen to their stories, so they don't tell them until that one person comes along, asks the right question, and they're off and running and think it is the best day of their life as they sit there. They've got somebody who wants to listen to their stories. And so take time to sit down with the older generation. They have some great, great stories. I grew up with my grandparents, their siblings still around. So I had my great aunts and uncles. I had one set of great grandparents that were still alive when I was born. And I got to hear little bits of stories from them. But I learned to stop and listen to the older generation because they have a lot of wisdom. And there are times that I would sit there when somebody from the older generation, and I'm talking grandparent level and above, so grandparents, the great aunts and uncles, and their and then anybody above them, like my great grandparents, and even on my dad's generation level, on my parental generational level. And I would sit there, and there would be some times that they felt like I was being lectured to, which in a way I was, because I'd heard about a struggle that I was having. So they just took it upon themselves to advise me, which was more like a lecture, about a time when they were bullied and stuff. And there was a time I just didn't, and those were times when I was just sitting there and I was like, I really don't want to listen to this. But I sat there and paid attention because that is what I had been taught, how to respect my elders. And if they want to tell you a story, you sit and listen. If they want to teach you a lesson, you sit and listen. Basically, and we connected over card games and board games and just sitting around the family table and having dinner together and connecting with each other that way as well. We weren't interrupted by TV. We weren't interrupted by phones. If the phone rang, it didn't get answered. And in those days, we had the rotary dial phone, and we didn't have an answering machine. So it just rang and rang and rang and rang and rang, and we were not allowed to get up and go answer it. Now, if it stopped ringing and started ringing again, then Dad or Mum would get up and go and answer it, because it must have been urgent if they were calling back so quickly. But if somebody wants to tell you their story, sit and listen. And then when you get back, sit down and write down everything you remember about it. Because if you pull out your phone to record it, it's going to make it obvious and it's going to shut them down. If you have a way to discreetly, but listen to their story. I don't say record every story, but just take time to sit down and just write out your memories of that story, how it made you feel. And there's always people that will go and we call them the old folks home. And this was one place I loved when I was in brownies and Girl Guides, and even in high school, we'd go and visit the senior. We'd go to give the senior centre. We'd go to the nursing homes and stuff, and put on shows for the community that lived in the nursing homes, and the nursing homes, or the old folks homes as we called them back then as well. And we would put on concerts for them, and just a bunch of girls standing around singing. But then afterwards, we got to have a cup of tea with them, and we would serve them their cups of tea, and then we were invited to go and sit with them and talk with them. And this was part of our community service that we had to do. But I will tell you this, others bitched and moaned about that. I really don't want to go there. I cherished every single moment of those concerts that we used to do. And when I was in high school, we would do the Age Concerned concert. And in our little town of 6,500 people, we actually had this hall that was for the Age Concerned, which was basically the seniors' hall. I don't know why we called it Age Concern, but it's written in the newspaper article, so that's what it was called. And we would put on a variety show for them. And then when the variety show was finished, We would then mingle with them, have, again, serve them cups of tea, and then just sit down and mingle with them. I loved that. Others were ready to get out of that place, but there was a few of us that we took the time to find somebody to sit down with them and talk with them. They would ask us a couple of questions about ourselves. Then they would just sit there and just talk. And I would just sit there and listen. That's all they wanted, was somebody to sit and listen. And so some family habits have become silent, of telling the stories have become silent because nobody wants to take the time to sit and listen. And this matters because the absence of stories often reflects circumstances, not indifference. Although I do think they reflect indifference at times because they have nobody to talk to, so they become very silent and don't talk about their memories or their pasts or anything like that. But even when I'm around my grandkids, I'm always telling them stories about their grandfather. And if I have some stories that I can share about their great grandmother, my mother-in-law, then I will share those as well. I will share stories about their dad and their uncles growing up, just to keep those memories alive. I remember remember one time when my nephews, my brothers, when my brother's sons were small and stuff. I said, "Oh, come sit here with Auntie Helen and we'll tell you some stories." And then my brother would turn around to them. He says, "You can listen to those stories and then come to me and I'll tell you the truth." That's what he would always say, because he knew that I was going to pull up some stories about him growing up. And he was just sort of like, he says, "Don't believe," he says, "you can listen to Auntie Helen, but just don't believe a word she says. If you want the true story, you come talk to me and I'll tell you the truth." Which I thought was really cute and really crazy. But it made for a fun time with my nephews and stuff. And I love getting to visit with my nephews. And I got to visit with my nephews a few weeks ago when we just after about 2 or 3 weeks after I got back here to New Zealand, to go up and visit with my youngest brother and meet some of his family that I hadn't met before. And to catch up with those that I already knew. So it was a very special moment, a very special time. And I just loved just sitting there watching them play and seeing them interact with each other, and excuse me, and just enjoying the day. And my brother has become a very good baker or cook as well. And his wife had been posting these pictures of these beautiful cheesecakes and cakes and stuff that he had made for each of the kids' birthdays, their wedding anniversary, all that sort of stuff. And so when I was on a FaceTime with him after I'd arrived in New Zealand, and I said, I have a small favor to ask. And he says, "What's that?" I said, "I have seen all of these beautiful cakes and cheesecakes. I have heard about them all the time." I said, "Would it be possible that you might be able to make one for me?" And he says, "Yeah, we can do that." And I said, "And can we make it?" And he says, "What type would you like?" I says, "Chocolate." There was just no ifs, ands, or buts about his chocolate. So he ended up making me a Matilda cake. If you don't know what a Matilda cake is, watch the movie Matilda. There's this, I've not seen the movie. I got told about it when I was told a Matilda cake. What the hell is a Matilda cake? And they go, "You have to watch the movie Matilda to find out what a Matilda cake is." But apparently in the movie Matilda, there's this boy who has a slice of the schoolmistress's cake, which is like this big, huge layered cake or whatever. And like it's about a 7-layer cake. It's all chocolate as far as I was told. I do not know this for a fact. I have not seen the movie. I have just been told about it. And they found out who the culprit was that took the piece. And so the headmistress made him sit down in front of the school and eat this entire humongous cake. Okay, my cake was not that big. It was about this big, but it was layered with chocolate. It was chocolate cake with chocolate, some sort of chocolate icing between each layer. It was absolutely yummy. It looked divine. It tasted great. I think I ended up, over the couple of days that we were with them, having like 3 pieces. But it was really good. And then it turned out that the day that we were going to go there and I was going to get this cake, it turned out it was my nephew's birthday the same day. And so his request, and so my brother was sort of like, "Oh, great, I can make one cake and we'll be done." No, my nephew wanted a banana cake. And so my brother, because of one of the kids having food allergies, made a gluten-free, dairy-free banana cake, and it had chocolate icing on top. And so we all got to have pieces of both cakes. But I will tell you, that banana cake beat my banana. I make really good banana cakes, but that banana cake was the bomb. It was absolutely delicious. And you couldn't tell that it was gluten-free or dairy-free at all. There was no aftertaste to it. It was moist. It was flavorful. It was just really good. So take time to tell the stories. I'm getting sidetracked. I will tell stories till the cows come home. But take time to sit down with the elders and just sit and listen to them and hear their stories. Write their stories down so that you can pass them on to excuse me. Allergies are bad. Oh, I haven't taken my Claritin today, that's why. Sorry, I forgot to take my allergy medication. So now it's all coming into effect. So take time to listen to people. And your practical takeaway is look at family context rather than blaming missing stories. If you want help understanding family storytelling patterns, send us a private message and we'll set up a discovery call with you, a free, no obligation discovery call with you to go over your family storytelling patterns and to see if we can get you on the right track to helping you not only understand them, but to help uncover the stories. And in closing, every family has stories, even when they are not told. So go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hei konara.